I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your cattle market summary for the week ending Friday, October the 30th. Look at your board this week and it was up and down, and we thought we'd gotten through a lot of this volatility, but it reappeared earlier in the week with the board, live and feeder cattle both down real hard on Monday and Tuesday, and then up sharply on Wednesday, and then kind of flattening out there. Your October contracts, of course, went off late in the week there. Your live cattle went off at 139 and a quarter. Feeder cattle went off at 193.27. So now we move on to your live cattle contracts for a December contract, which was down 107 on Friday at 141.72, and it was down just 33 cents for the week. On feeder cattle, we moved to the November contract, which was down $1.02 on Friday to close at 190.90. And that was down to 80 cents for the week. But still pretty decent week of trade there. The Packers are kind of fooling with things. They've backed their kill off again, down to just projected to be 553,000 this past week, where we'd been killing up in the 570s, which just that difference there is making us be able to clean things up and stay ahead of the game. But it did have the early week trade is what happened this week. They sold the cattle on Tuesday afternoon, right after the board had been down on Monday and Tuesday. So then they had a few late week sales come in Thursday and Friday there, 133 to all the way to 139, which is a huge gap. But we expect that live cattle weighted average to be around 136 and a half. Your dress trade was from 208 to 210 mostly, and we expect that weighted average to be around 209 and 6 bits there. But we come into the week with a disappointment, which is the main reason the board was down so hard, because of the prior week's trade. We thought it was going to be a whole lot higher than it turned out to be, and that was kind of hard on the market. And then this week's trade happened on Tuesday, after hours, after the board had tanked for 2 days straight. So you just see the Packers taking advantage of every opportunity, which they're just masters at trade, and they're so much better at it than the people they're dealing with that it's not really fair. What's going on in the country? Harvest is winding down now. You're going to have more farmer feeders coming into the market as we get into the last days of the good weather before things start turning off cold. But on the other hand, we have had frost in most of your major production areas, which helps the health on your calves. And we're still having those big swings between the cold nights and the hot days. But after you get a frost and it kills a lot of that airborne illness, it seems like you don't have quite as much trouble. And guys aren't fooling a whole lot with these balling calves anyway. You pretty much got to have them weaned 45 days and all your vaccinations. So not having as much trouble, and it's not real wet around, and you give up in the Midwest down in Texas, you know, of course they're selling their calves and getting them out of there. But it's just, you're not hearing a whole lot of big problems really. They're still shipping calves out west off the video and off the direct trade. The big ranchers are still shipping. A lot of those delivery periods ran from November 1st to November 15th. So your feedlots are filling up with those because most of those calves are too big to do anything else with. They'll just have to go straight to the feedlot with them. You got a big calf, and all those calves are balling. They're just going to sort those off the cow at delivery and have some big 700-pound calves going into the feedlot right off the cow, which you're glad you don't live across the road from them. But your wheat turnout for grazing, if you're leasing wheat, is normally November 15th. So we're starting to see a lot of calves that, if they haven't already done it, moving in to get straightened up to be turned out on wheat. We did see some gains in the southeast again this week on your light crossbred calves. They sold from $1 to $3 higher. In the major production areas of the cattle up through the central parts and throughout. If you look at your weekly detailed summary on Cattle Market Central, that's a nationwide summary there, you can see that now we've gone far enough through this rebound that our prices for this week were higher than course, the last 30 days and the previous month. So you can see we've gained that ground back. Probably gained $20 to $30 on a lot of those calf prices that were probably $60 down when we had the big wreck. But through your major parts of the plains and northern, southern plains and your mountain states, your feeder cattle and calves were kind of unevenly steady for the week. Of course, they kind of followed the board loosely. They were down hard, or not hard, but down a little bit early, and then made some recovery there midweek. But your guys just sitting in the barns, they just don't really trust this market yet. They've got some confidence there, but it's real cautious. Your true yearling numbers are very tight. Your runs in the auction markets and any cattle that are available are totally dominated by calves. Hardly any true yearlings, and if they are true yearlings, there's something that's been in the background in lot, so it's going to be fleshy and not feed near as well as some green yearlings coming off grass, which we don't see any of those at all right now. But look at Cattle Market Central for some real-time quotes. Bluegrass Stockyards in Richmond, Kentucky, they're on Friday. They had a load of steers weighed 800 pounds at 203. Not bad for an eastern market there. And you look at Gordon, Nebraska, middle of last week here, had 121 425 pound steers, bring 278. But check out DV Auction for the last of your fall production sales, and we'll soon have our spring production sales schedule out. And from my home office here in Maysville, Missouri, we'll talk to you next week.